Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I am filming my October wrap up, and I can really tell winter is coming to Norway because it's so dark and grey. So I want to film in daylight, but there is no daylight to film in. In October I did pretty well. I did end up reading, I'm scrolling down here, 78 books, but I didn't beat my record, which was 81 books the last month. In theory I definitely could have, because I really read a lot in the beginning, and then I really ebbed off at the end of the month because then I kind of completed all the things I wanted, and I don't like to start things that I can't finish within that month because that is how my brain works. So I definitely could have reached more, but I didn't. But as we know, I don't go that in details for all of these books. I did do 3 side vlogs for the ones that didn't belong to other vlogs, and then I did my first episode of TBR Tumble, which did cover books from August and September as well, etc. So lots of different vlogs we're in here. But without further ado, let's go through the books I read in October. The first, we started off the month with finishing my audio, which was The Second Death of Luck by V.L. Bovalino. This one is from my Lumicrate blog because it was a Lumicrate monthly pick, and it does follow a knight and her mage. They really are pining for each other because they really like each other and they want each other. And then it's about the developments for their relationship and also things in this world, because one of them has a secret, etc. I think that a lot of people talk about the pining, etc. in this, but I just feel like it didn't work that well for me because they start to pine too much from the get-go and you just know where the story's going to go. And then the plot itself wasn't that interesting. So personally for me, this story didn't work out that much, and I ended up giving it a 2. There is actually going to be a lot of books in this that I already on hold because I was finishing off TBR Tumble. Among them, I had The Darkest Legacy and In Their Afterlife. Oh, this is the 3rd and this is the 4th. These I had to continue from a month before because I was starting The Darkest Minds in the end of September, but I didn't manage to get to these in the end of that month because they were so thick. But it does follow the world in the United States where all of the children die except very, very few, and the ones that are left have abilities and they're set into different camps to control them, and then we are working against this. And for me, this whole series was just not interesting, and I haven't hold them, but I haven't gotten rid of these specifically yet, so I still have them, but they will be gone soon. Then read Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This was a buddy read with my friend Johanna, and this one follows a young woman who basically meets this girl at her market that makes really good food, and they start getting a thing, but there is darkness in the story because it is a horror, and I think it goes very much where you think it's gonna go. I was hoping for a different kind of plot twist, but I do still think it was a really well written story that had really good atmosphere and was just perfect for the season, etc. I personally really, really enjoyed it and its developments. I think it was a perfect short book. I think it's literally 200 pages, and I ended up very much enjoying it, and I gave it a 4. I want to say more with spoilery, but it was very enjoyable. Then I read Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I do still have this, but it was on the bottom of 200 books. I didn't bother getting it out. This was to finish up Divergent, and also for TBR Tumble I did end up unhauling, even though I still in theory have my copy still. And it is the final one in Divergent, which was a very popular, or still is a very popular, YA dystopia series, which set in this world where people are separated into factions, but then a main character, Trish, belongs to several factions in theory, and they are being hunted down, and then we try to find out why the world is split into these factions and why they're not always correct, etc. It is a series that is a very stamp of YA series, but it's not one that was ever my favorite anyway. I might watch a movie here and there, but I had the series for over 10 years, I think, and I realized I never had the urge to reread them, comparing to for example, Hunger Games, which I always want to read within here and there, but I never had the urge to reread Divergent, so I decided that it is okay to let them go. I then finished up my Twilight vlog. Was this the last one I read for that? It seems like it. The last one I actually read was the Twilight graphic novel. This is part 1 and 2, which are, for some reason, always take them in the wrong direction. And it is just the graphic novel adaptation of Twilight. which I actually very much enjoyed. It also do exist New Moon, but it's out of print, so I can't really get it unless I want to spend a lot of money. And one of them is like an ex-library copy that I got for free, so that's kind of fun. Very much enjoyed it, and I did a whole spoiler vlog, which is also up on my channel, so I will leave that link down below as well. I done finished my audio with Erica, which was Assassin's Crest by Roman Hobb. It was so good. Obviously, this is a reread for me, and it is the third book in the Frasier trilogy, which follows Fitz, who is the bastard son of the king in waiting, and then it's just him growing up in Buckkeep and then also becoming the assassin's apprentice. That is the assassin to the prince, not to the prince, but to the king, to the royal family. And it's just so good. He gets involved in so many things. We just follow his characters like a perfect, beautiful, not perfect as is his life is perfect, but it's like so well written character study of these people and the setting and how it develops. I actually was shocked because while I love this series and I gave this 5 stars, I think that like we were at 50% mark and I was like, not really a lot happened. We have just been traveling a lot and like the wrap up is so fast. I wish we could spend more time in the end with the ending. While there's more books in the series, etc., and we do follow the characters again and we go back here, I just wish we had like 50 less pages in the traveling and 50 more pages in the end. That is like my main criticism of it, but I think the writing is incredible. I think the characters are incredible. I love this series a lot, and obviously it is a 5 out of 5, and I better read it with Erica. We listen to the audio, and we are obviously going to continue whenever that is picked out on our list. I love them a lot though. Then we had Death Angels 3 or Endelikt, which is like ending something, I can't even translate it, by Stefan R.M. Sørlum. This is Norwegian YA dystopia series. Maybe not dystopia, but it's like time travel. They're being hunted down by death angels, etc. I had the third book on my TBR for a really long time because I read 1 and 2 from the library, and then I decided to read it done and unhaul it for TBR Tumble, which again is up on my channel. I didn't really love it because like obviously it's been like 10 years since I read 1 and 2, and then like it was trying to do cool things, but I wasn't really interested in it, which is obviously unfortunate, but I did get it very cheap a billion years ago to like finish up the series, and now I finally did and got it out of my TBR, which is great. I then did read An In an Absent Dream by Sir Nan McGuire, which was the next one in Wayward Children I needed to read for my Better Read in Patreon. And in this one we are set in one of like the magical worlds instead of like the actual school, which actually follows a character that we meet in the first book of Every Hearted Away and what kind of world that she went through. It's actually a very, very cruel world with a lot of very logical rules, but it's very interesting. We do go to the Goblin Market, and I really like the story and like how it felt like a really dark fairy tale. It is like the favorite. Yeah, they read Every Hearted Away, so obviously I gave it a 5 out of 5 and I would very much recommend the whole series. Then I read Battle Born by Amy Kaufman. This is the third book in a mental series, and I had 1 and 2 and have now since unhauled them, but I did read this to finish up this series. And this one just follows these like ice wolves, and then we have like the dragons, scorched dragons, and they're like been at war with each other for a really long time, and then we follow a pair of twins that may belong to one faction each, and maybe they need to work together. It is a cute and fun middle grade series, but I just didn't feel like keeping it. Then I did read A Night House or Natthuset by Jo Nesbø, which is a Norwegian crime author, and this is like was one of his news releases, and it was dubbed as an adult book, but it's actually more for YA, but it was really weird and I didn't enjoy myself. We do follow like this 14-year-old boy that like there's this phone, and then they go into like this scary house, and it's just really weird, and I had some weird fat phobia, and I just didn't enjoy it at all. But I just realized that Jo Nesbø is not for me, even though it's very popular in Norway and also outside Norway, which is in a theory cool to be a Norwegian author, but and be that like internationally famous, but he's not for me. I do believe I can take these together, but then I need to actually find them all because I don't have order in my stuff apparently. Love to see it because we can take all of these together, because I did read volume 22, 23 and 24 of Home We Can Communicate within the month. Not like right after one another, but like then we can collect them. Home We Can Communicate follows Comey, who has communication issues, and then she wants a lot of friends, and it's about her getting friends and going through high school. And we have had this like storyline, like kind of romantic storyline for a while now, that finally like came into play after 100 years of back and forth, and I'm just so happy. Like this volume specifically was adorable, and I had such a good time that we finally like in the other end of like the, not necessarily, it wasn't even like drama, it was just a lot of like, are we gonna tell him we like him or not, like a billion years. And I'm just glad like we're done with that part and we can move on to like the good parts. But yeah, very much enjoying this series. I think like I'm almost soon done in a way, but I have over 10 volumes left. I thought the Twilight comics was the last Twilight I read, but it was actually Midnight Sun. I thought I was so confused because I really thought that I hadn't talked about Midnight Sun in last month, so I was just confused. But Midnight Sun is Twilight from Ediver's POV, and I just had a Twilight marathon as well. And I don't know what more else to say, but it is interesting to be in his head, even though he is a bit of an asshole. It is also very thick compared to like actual Twilight, even though Twilight is 500 pages, and this is like 650, so it's like 150 pages longer. It was still interesting to see his POV of like why he likes Bella so much and like read other people's thoughts and see more of his family. But obviously, like, why would you read it if you don't like Twilight? And that's what I got to say, but I had a blast. I liked it much more this time than the first time I read it. Then I read Tears of Frost and The Soul of Cinder by Brie Barton, which was a sequel to Heart of Thorns, which is a fairy book I got and have read, and I wanted to finish it up to be able to unhaul the first one and finish up the series. Because this girl has not had magic, and every girl is supposed to have magic, and then she's supposed to marry this dude, and then she doesn't want to, and things play out from there. I actually enjoyed the first book enough to want to continue, but then I felt the rest of the series fell flat for me, and I didn't really enjoy them that much, so I'm totally fine with unhauling the first one, or trying to sell it very cheap because it was a favorite edition. I also listened to Song of the Dead by Sarah Glenn March. This is a sequel to, what's it called again? Reign of the Fallen, maybe? And it's like about necromancers, and we have a by MC, and we also have representation of depression. And then in this one we just follow the aftermath of the first one, and there is relationship drama and dead people walking around, and it's a whole thing. It is fine, but it wasn't amazing, and I'm fine again with unhauling the first one, even though it is pretty. All of these were for TBR Tumble. The same with the next audiobooks I did, which was Game of Stars and Chaos Curse by Sayantani Dasgupta. These two were 1 and 2 in Kuramala and the Kingdom Beyond. So that was like a trilogy, and it was Kuramala that finds out that she is a special princess from this world that her parents come from, and then she's actually the daughter of the Serpent King, etc. And then we go on an adventure like per se as like Percy Jackson or Shaw, etc. It is a fun journey, even though I feel like a character is very much a main character, which is fine. But yeah, for me it was just, I noticed that maybe it wasn't my favorite, it wasn't bad or anything, but it was just a lot in a way. But obviously like it's based on Bengali folklore, etc. And I do think that the story itself is fun, etc. for the audience that it's going for. I also read its spin-off, which was, what is the name again? It is Force of Fire and Crown of Flames, which was a different character, but it does like correspond with the third book in the first series. And I actually thought that this one was much funner because then we kind of follow the villains and they had like different characterizations, so I enjoyed like the characters that I want more. And it also brings up a lot of like the colonialism, etc. And like it's represented kind of in a like fantasy setting, etc. So I thought that that was done well, and I did enjoy it. Then I read Among the Burning Flowers by Samantha Shannon, which I listened to audio, which is now another prequel to Briar of the Orange Tree set in the same world. This is very much shorter though. I do like the world a lot, and I do like the characters and the way Samantha Shannon writes a lot, but I just couldn't get into this one. It's so beautiful. I just couldn't get into this one as I feel like I want to get into the other ones in the series. Like I really love 1 and 2, if you can call them 1 and 2, but I just like, I felt like, what was the point of this? Like we got to see more of Ines, we got to meet some other characters, but I don't know if it's because it was short and I couldn't fall into it properly. I don't know what's up, but like I did love this as much as the others, and I just like didn't see the point of this, as like the others have like a more like a full going plot, and this is like a novella, even though it's like 240 pages. So while it's studying, I only gave it a 3, and I might try it again later. Right after that, I also listened with Erica, Swords of Ravens, which is the newest Witcher book, which is also a prequel. The funny thing is that this is like 400 pages, but it was a shorter audiobook than Among the Burning Flowers, and I think it's just because they use really huge margins and a lot of blank pages in it. And again, Witcher is another thing that I have really enjoyed. Obviously, I have all the books behind me here. I read all of them. I really love a lot of them, but not all of them, and I really love Geralt as a character, and here we follow him younger. But just, again, I couldn't get into this. I didn't see the point of the story that much, and I was just like, what was the point of this? Why are we doing the story? So I can see daylight. Sorry, I just got so distracted by the light coming in here. Wow, I could have started filming 10 minutes later. I just, again, was a bit disappointed because I was just like, did anything happen? Or why did we have the story? And I gave this also a 3. So that's a bit sad. Then I buddy read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder with Johanna, which is by Holly Jackson. The first one in the series, super popular. For this young girl that is very interested in this case where this girl disappeared 5 years ago. And she's writing like a sort of thesis about it. So she's like interviewing people around it and then like trying to find out like the actual mystery. And it's so weird for me that all of these people is just talking to this kid, basically like an 18-year-old girl, just telling all their secrets basically. And I'm just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why didn't they tell this stuff to police? And then obviously like she does, it's not really a spoiler that she is able to solve this, but it's just so weird. But it was a bit fun in the end because there was some twist upon twist, which I did enjoy a lot. And like, it's not like I disliked it, I just don't think the mystery itself or like the murder itself was that interesting as to like have the hype for this to be. But I don't think it was bad. I was just like a bit unrealistic, but it was a fun time. So I gave that a 3 if we're doing ratings or not. I don't know. Then I reread Bride again with Erica on audio, which I reread obviously to Readmate, which I have now read, and we'll talk about that in my next month wrap up or my next vlog. And this one follows a vampire and a werewolf in a marriage of convenience where they're forced to be married for an alliance between the species, and it's just so good. I love this so much, even though like I don't actually love the characters, I just love the story. It is just made for me, and I obviously gave it 5 because it's one of my favorite books. I'm just like, how are we not done soon? And we only book 23. I need to speak faster. We have the Apothecary Diaries Volume 7, which follows this apothecarist that lives in court, and there is drama and death and investigations, and I'm very much enjoying it so far. I then read Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This was actually for TBR Tumble, and I thought I wouldn't enjoy it, but then I ended up loving it. It was the only book in the whole YA that I loved, spoilers, and it was incredible. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I was so immersed in it, and it follows these people that goes on this Easter egg hunt throughout this game that was made by this rich dude, and if they can find the treasure, they can like inherit the whole game and become very rich. A lot of people have been trying to find it. We follow a main character who is able to reach this goal, which he spoils in the first like chapters. It's just like, I will tell you now the story of how I actually did this. And like, while you know where it's going to end, it's so interesting to like be on this journey, and I absolutely loved it. And while I think a lot of people loved it for its references, I just loved it for the reveals and like how you didn't know like the mysteries and like the hunt, and it was just a ride, and I thoroughly enjoyed it so much. And I was very surprised because I honestly didn't think that was gonna happen, and I gave it a 5. Then I read All the Wandering Light by Heather Fawcett, which was the sequel to, I can't remember, something stars. And I had that, and I went to read this for TBR Tumble to finish it up and see if I wanted to hold the first one, which I did. It's like frosty place thingy, and then we go on a journey, and it is good vibes, but I just wasn't that interested in the characters or its plot. And then read a full quartet, was watched in Norwegian. It is Bien Spo by Lars Saabye Christiansen. So I read Bien Spo, which is like the city traces. I read book 2, which is the city traces May, which is one of the characters in the book, and then the Bien Spor Skyggeboken, which is like the shadow book, and then Jesper and Trude, which was 2 names again in the story. This is 4 books. One, like, we are in Oslo, which is a city in Norway, and then we just follow different characters growing up there, and lots of things happen, and I didn't actually care the slightest. I didn't own book 3, but I did own Hall 1, 2, and 4, and I don't have that much more to say about it, except that they weren't for me at all, and I was not enjoying myself. I was very bored. I then read in between all that Masha Volume 7, which is just we are punching people at a magic school and doesn't have magic, but we are punching people, which is not that interesting in the long run right now, but I'm hoping maybe it will pick itself more up, but I don't know. Also read Bungo Stray Dogs 25, which ended 24 on a huge cliffhanger, so it was a ride to be back and solve this cliffhanger. It was so much fun. I think we're finally done for this storyline and maybe we'll go into a new kind of battle, but it is one of my favorites. I got to see my fave and it was a good time. Loved it. Then I read Bergen's Young Adult Theater by Pedro Camora Alvarez. This, like The City Traces, wasn't a book for me, but it's basically a person that lives in Oslo and then moved to Bergen for a bit, and then someone moves to America and there's like drama and stuff, and I just didn't care that much, which maybe you can tell, and it was not a story for me, but this was again for TBR Tumble to get old books out of my house, which was, it worked, I guess. I also read Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris, which is about a woman who is in an abusive relationship, which is not a spoiler because that is literally how the book starts out, and then it's more about her getting out of this than like the plot twist of how she, like what is actually going on, but it is some good reads of like, I was going to say like how this relationship works, and like we go back in time, we have one storyline back in time and then in our time until they meet to like see like the history of how she ended up where she is, etc. And it really keeps you on your feet. You really want to keep reading, and I think it was done well in that regard, even though for me it almost felt a bit unrealistic, but like it is fiction, so that is that. Still like gripped me because I was very like hyper focused in it, like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? I think it did a good job in that regard, but I don't feel the need to keep it. While it was a fun ride, if you can call it that, so reading about this poor woman. And I read another Norwegian trilogy, which I owned for 100 years, which is The Runestone by Annette Riise Hansen, which also was The Dragon Journey and The Frost Kingdom. This is 3 books following these dwarves, Shalgen Trym, which is the name of the actual series, that goes on to different journeys. And it was totally fine for the audience that it is for, which is not me anymore, but I owned it for like a billion years. They were up here on the top of my shelf full of spider webs, I feel like. And it was time to let them go, but I did read them, and now they can go to someone else who actually can have fun with them. I did also read The Night Eaters. This is book 3, The Kingdom Come, which is the final one in the trilogy, which was this family that is not as human maybe as they think they are, because one of the parents is maybe a different kind of creature, and then it's about them realizing that. Here we go a bit beyond that scope, where we like are more of like in the world picture of how this affects the world. Well, like in the first one was more focused on family, which is why I enjoyed them more, but I still overall did enjoy the series. I think it was beautiful art and about family, and obviously the author artist from Monstrous, so I knew it was going to be solid. I then read A Spool of Blue Thread by Anne Taylor, another book that I own, but I own it in Norwegian, but it is gone now. I've given it away, and this one is just like a fiction book that is, there's drama in the family, and I didn't really care. I thought that it would be fun drama, but it was boring drama that I didn't care for, so it was time to let that go. It was a free Norwegian book I had for 100 years, so that was nice. I read like a lot, right? So I could read more manga at this point, because then like I read 3 full-length novels and then I can read a manga. So we then had To Your Eternity 13, which followed this orb that can turn into people that the orb knows that has died. And now we did a huge shift in the series. The biggest shift we had so far happened here, and I'm not happy about it. Like, we are midway in the series and I just don't like the shift. I feel like it could have happened in the end. And we shall see how it goes, because maybe obviously the shift will grow on me, but I was very shocked to say it like that, and I'm not that happy, but obviously I will keep reading because I am now invested in the series. Then I read Markens Grøde by Knut Hamsun. This one is a Norwegian classic, because Knut Hamsun is a dude that wrote a lot of famous Norwegian books. I don't know I can't remember the name of the English title, but it's something Soil or something. And I read this for a book club I have joined at work, and it was not for me. We are a lot of like out in the farms, and it's like, what is happening with the people in the village, etc. And it was just, for me, not that interesting. But I bought it from a friend that I obviously don't have the book anymore, because I didn't want to spend money on it. And I can see the value of it in like the, I guess, history of literature maybe in a way, but I would have never read it if it wasn't for this book club. Then I read Ocean Book, or Havboka, by Morten A. Storknes, which is another Norwegian book about these 2 dudes that got out in a boat and hunt whales or whatever. And it was not, again, for me, it was a lot of like facts maybe in it that probably is cool for other people, but for me, I was not interested. And it's a book I said goodbye to. Then I read The Night of the Dead, or Die Dödes Natt, which is by Monica Steinholm, which is about this girl that has birthday on Halloween, and then she finds out maybe she has magical powers, and a lot of people think like, oh my god, you're a witch, you belong to this covenant, but maybe she's not actually a witch. And it's told in like text format and in like comic format, and it was a Norwegian book that I got for free once again. I don't think that this book was bad at all, actually. I think it was nice for the target audience that it's going for, but for me it was just not a book I need to keep. I could maybe read a sequel and borrow it in the library, but I think that for the audience it's going to, that like a bit of like scary stories with witches, etc., and like also like reading comics as well as a simple story, that was fun. I think it was perfect for that, but it's not something I need to keep on my shelves. Then I read Witch Volume 8, or if you want to say like Part 3, A Crisis on Both Worlds Volume 2, which is obviously for a witch that is supposed to protect their portals and the worlds, etc. And I love them a lot, love the story, very excited to continue, and I'm only on volume 8 out of like 31, so honestly, have a huge ride ahead, which I'm happy for. Oh my god, there's still so many books left. At this point, I had a little scary readathon in Patreon, so I had to read this anyway, but they were perfect for the theme. But I read Shadow Kiss as well as Blood Promise, which was for my Vampire Academy read along. We already had the live show. This is book 3 and 4 in the series, where we follow Rose Hathaway, who goes to Vampire Academy, and then in the beginning 2 years ago they escaped from it and are now back in the midst of the drama. And there is different elemental abilities, there's evil vampires and nice vampires, and a lot of school drama, and it's so much fun. It is honestly a blast. This one has one of the biggest events in the whole series to happen, and I thought for some reason it happened before. It leaves you gasping, you want to die, it is great. And this one had so many events happen that I've forgotten ever happened in the whole series, and I was just like, what is going on? Like, it was like I never read it before, and it was shocking and amazing, and it was a blast. I honestly had the best time. Honestly, I love the reread so far, and I'm so excited to read the 5th and 6th book in the series for December. At Dan read I Was a Teenage Slasher, but Stephen Graham joins. I can never say Jones for some reason. I always say the wrong like sound in my mouth, and it's very annoying. This one was a better read in my Patreon, the Discord, and it is about this dude that was a teenage slasher, and then he tells a story, and I didn't really get it. It was really weird. Like, the way it played out, it just, for me, didn't make sense, and I was just like, I didn't get it, I think. And I ended up not really loving it. So that is all the thoughts I have. I wanted to enjoy it a lot, but sadly I didn't. Then I read Hot the Wax by Emily Rio, which is the author of Vivi Valence, one of my favorite books. And I read this. And we have followed this timelines, and then we are this daughter of like this famous artist, and then she's on like a journey, and I didn't really get it. I honestly, I was just like, what is the point of this story? And I wanted to love it so much because obviously I think Emily Rio is a really good writer. I like really good with words and etc. But I just didn't think that this story was appealing. I didn't really like see the point of it once again, which I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. But I was just very disappointed. I borrowed this in the library because I was scared I wouldn't like it, and I'm glad I did because I don't want to own this. Because I try to, I was going to say, buy books that I actually love, etc. But I was disappointed because obviously I wanted to love this since Rio is a author I want to love the books from. But I ended up giving this a week 3. Then I read Bridge of Clay by Marcus Zusak. I actually still have this, but it is in theory on hold. I just forgot that I read it this month. And this was again for TBR Tumble. This I own for a really long time because I love The Book Thief. I bought this many years ago, which is obviously what we're trying to avoid here, to buy books and have them for 100 years just because I like the first one. So like, look, I learned my lesson and borrowed the Rio book right before. But this one follows these brothers and they are building a bridge, and I didn't care for any part of the story. It was very like poetic, etc., but it was just not a story that worked for me, so I ended up therefore unhauling it. Then next for TBR Tumble, I did read Tokyo Dreaming, which is the sequel to Tokyo Ever After, which is about this girl finds out that she's the princess of Japan, obviously fake because they don't have royalty in the same way. But then it's just like drama, etc., of like adjusting to Princess Life now in the second one. I don't think that these books are bad. I think they're fun for what they are, and like a fun like parallel universe of our world, but I just don't feel I need to keep them because I didn't think they were incredible either. So I am unhauling this and the first one. Then I read Again But Better by Christine Riccio, which was again for TBR Tumble. On this for a really long time. Before, this girl that has been to college and then she's felt like she didn't have like a good college life, and then she goes on an exchange a year to England, and then this is her chance to like get friends and be like outgoing, etc. And then drama happens, and then we have like a time shift, which is why it's called Again But Better. And it was just so weird. Like, it's a lot about like we're cheating and there's homeworking, and I just didn't really like the characters, didn't see why they liked each other. Like the way they acted, I was just like, what? I was so angry at them. And I just didn't enjoy the story overall because of this. I don't think that the book is terrible. That sounds really bad. For me personally, a lot of elements I didn't enjoy. But I would be interested in reading more of Christina Riccio, just borrowing them and see if I enjoy like the later books, because this is tribute more than I enjoyed this first one. Then I read Flying Witch Volume, what are we on? 13, which is a super cute manga series following this witch. And then in this one we met Norwegian witches, which was really fun, and I very much enjoyed that. And it's like 1 volume a year, which is very cute and fun. I then read the last book for TBR Tumble, which was My Life on the Road by Gloria Steinem, which follows the life of Gloria Steinem. It's her memoir. And then she was a feminist. She did a lot of different things. It was interesting to learn about. I hadn't really known any of the things she's done. And it was a lot of like important conversations to have. She's very inclusive in her conversations. So I thought it was a good book, but I just didn't feel like I needed to keep it. So it's open to be given away that someone that wanted it. And that's what I got to say. Like, I don't think the book was bad, actually. I just didn't feel I needed to keep it. Because I, in theory, bought it for this book club. I was going to read like all the picks that our shared shelf had read, but then I can still do that, but I don't need to own them unless like they impact me differently. Then for this readathon in Patreon, I did read Rose and Blood 1 to 5, which is a vampire series about this girl called Stella that is in an accident as she's taken into this house where there are 4 vampires, and then she's just like, well, hello. And then I wish we had more reverse harem than it actually was. It was very teasingly, it was very sexy, but in a teasingly way. It never goes further. It has a lot of dubious consent. It's very sexy though. And then we hang with these vampires, which is a ride. It was a fun series that I could probably reread. But the vampire lore was inconsistent, is what I got to say. Then I did read Make Me a Monster by Kaeleen Bayron, which is author of Cinderella's Dead, among other things. This is a Frankenstein retelling, and it is about this girl and her parents that have this monastery. Monastery? Isn't that like where you go, where there are nuns? I think I want the word monetary. The word where you had dead bodies that you prepare for the funeral. I am struggling. But they own that, and then weird things starts happening there. And as it is a Frankenstein retelling, you can imagine where the story will go. It is very interesting. I actually really liked it. I generally have liked Helen Bayron's books, but there's one duology I didn't enjoy that much. But this one was great, so I really wanted to actually get a physical copy because I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it had really good atmosphere, etc., and well written. Thought that it was shocking and fun and exactly what you want, so I really enjoyed it. But I bought it in the library, but now I do want to get myself a copy, but I'm waiting for a sale. Then I read for the same readathon Drepende Sensamadaga, which is like Killing Late Summer Days by Keiga Higashino, which is translated into Norwegian, which is a crime book. We do have a death more out in the countryside, and the other 2 was more into the city. And then we followed this death and go on an investigation. The first 2 by the author that has been translated, which are on the back here, I enjoyed more because it had better plot twists. This one didn't have like as good of a plot twist, but it was still a good ride, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that it's written really well, and it really like kept my attention to like what is going on, who is behind this, etc., what is happening. But I just didn't think it had as good as a plot twist as the others. But I still thoroughly, really enjoyed it. I think it's very well written, very well translated. And overall, I am excited for the next that my professor will translate. Yay. And then I read A Steeping of Blood by Hafsa Faisal. This is the sequel to A Tempest of Tea. And it does also have vampires. And then we have like this, in the first one, a crew, and then we're going to go on a heist. And I didn't care for the characters. Didn't really care for like the way the story is presented, which is why I borrowed the first one to see if I would want to. I was gonna say I already had on hold the first one, but I just wanted to read it for the second one at once. So like it's under the belt, I was gonna say, but it's definitely not a series for me. And I'm actually, is it coming more? I feel like it should, because yeah, that's what I got to say. Then I read The Bone Raiders by Jackson Ford, which I'm reading for my Epic Traveler vlog, and I borrowed this, and this was like these Bone Raiders that like have, I was gonna say armor that is from people I killed or creatures they killed, and then we are like a group of female warriors and we are strong, and it was fine. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it, but I just felt like it was trying to do something that didn't completely work for me. So it was just fine. Then I did read To Green Angel Tower, which is book 3 and 4, but it's really book 1 split in 2 parts. Read it for the live show that has already been for this last book in the series. And we do follow Simon, who goes on a journey to become a hero basically, and the king has died, and then we go on an epic fantasy journey. It is very long-winded. It uses a long time to do things, and it's not as engaging as I would want to form an epic fantasy. But it was okay. I might have reread it later, but I gave it like a 3 and felt very like average about it, while like I thought I would love them, but I didn't. But at least I got very stunning copies of it now, and they're very heavy and big, and I just felt like it was missing like an engaged tool and like things in the story that really was gonna pull me in to make it like a very, for me, a really like fantasy series I love. Then I listened to the Demon and the Light by ACEDEMY, which was the sequel to The Floating World, which was this girl that has powers that are being kept secret, and then she uses them, and now everyone is after her. And then we follow the boy who is one of the hunters after her, and he's just looking for his brother, and has been told if he finds this girl, he will get his answers in a way from someone else that has the answers. And then they meet, and then things happen. I actually really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was a great fun. I don't think that this second one was as good, while still good though. I just haven't got my copy yet, but I did borrow this in the library on audio anyway. I think that the elements in this wasn't as, for me, as fun in the first one. Well, it's interesting because I think that the first one followed a lot of cliches, but I think it did it well, because like cliche is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think the second one managed to like keep me on like the same ropes as the first one, but it was still a solid duology. Then I listened to Jade City with Erica, which we did so many audiobooks because we kept playing Switch together, and then we listened to audiobook what we do. This is obviously a review for me for one of my favorite books of all time, which also called Family, who is the one in control of one of the 2 clans that control Kakon Island, which also have Jade. And if you have like a certain blood in you, you can control the Jade, and you get different kind of abilities. And it's about the control of the Jade, control of the political landscape on this island, and then other outside forces trying to break in, and this relationship between these 2 clans, and if war will break out, etc. It is amazing. It has one of the best characters ever, and I love the series so much. And obviously I give it a 5 because it is one of my favorite series of all time. So excited to continue as well. Then I read Snow White with a Red Hair by Swart Akiduki. This one follows Shirayuki, who is she a herbalist? Yes. And then she gets a thing with his own prince, and we go on journeys, and we heal people, and there's drama, and we love to see it. I also read A Fox's Wife by Yang Shishu. I accidentally skipped it on my list. This, among others, I read to read all the final nominees for their World Fantasy Award 2025 for novelists. And this one, we follow a fox that is out to find the killer of her child, and then we like get into like this situation where there's other foxes nearby, and no one can trust the foxes because they're tricky people. And then we also have like different folklore stories told to our characters, etc. And then we follow other people involved with like finding the foxes or hunting each other down. It's very interesting, very good like historical setting, very good atmosphere, feels like kind of a really good like tale, and also a lot of sadness in it. I very much enjoyed this one. For the same vlog, I did read The Bug of Wife by Kate Cronister, which is more like a horror book where we have this family that made this deal with this bug that produces them a wife, and then one of the people, like one of the siblings in the family, is going to go and get himself a wife, but no wife shows up, so they're like, what do we do now? Then like the family and like their hornets is amped up after this, which was good atmosphere, but I don't think that the characters or like the story itself was that compelling to me. For the same vlog, oh, I did borrow The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. There was no available ebooks. I had to get a physical big book from my library. And this one is an Arthurian retelling, but we follow a knight called Callum. But we follow the aftermath of like when Arthur is not alive anymore, which is, if you know the stories, he does die. And I was just like, what? This is story we follow, which is like cool, but then just nothing happened after that. I feel like it was just so boring. We're trying to find out who was going to rule. We go around and we go in a lot of the past of the different knights to like discover, I was like gonna say, go to details of their life and like what they did before. So like there's a lot of flashbacks, etc. And now the sun is too much. It's very low in the sky and it's too much and it's in my face. But I really liked the beginning. I really liked the writing. It was really good. But then I just felt like the story itself became very uninteresting. And I was just like, it's so thick and then you managed to put in so little in it. Shocking. So yeah, and it didn't end up being a story for me completely. I then listened to The Irresistible Urge to Fall for the Enemy by Brigitte Knightley, which was for a Lumicraft vlog. And this one is a fanfic of a series that we shall not name, which is why I put it off to so long to read it. And then we have this dude that is sick, and then this girl is going to heal him, and she's like one of the good guys. They're healers, wow, really good people, and he's like one of the bad guys. They're like assassins and meanies. She doesn't really want to help him, but he does pay her a lot of money, and then the attraction is too big between them. So it ended on this really big cliffhanger, which did annoy me, which is like, what was the point of that? Book basis stuff that they are denying their attraction for each other, basically. I would say the pining in this was better than the first book I read for the month, which was The Second Out of Lock. Honestly, the pining was better, and like their back and forth was better, I guess. But for me, it just felt really weird into writing. It felt really like childish. I don't know how to describe it, but the way it was not written as a fantasy book. For some people that can work really well for them, and like it makes them enjoy the story, I guess, more in a different way. But for me, it just felt very like I was taking out of the fantasy setting in a way that spoke, because yeah, at least like Second of Lock, I guess like it felt more fantasy setting for the way it was written. It was like more fantasy, but this one was written very contemporary, and like it just didn't work completely for me because it took me out of the setting. If I can describe that better, who knows? But yeah, I didn't end up loving it because I didn't really care that much, but at the same time I do think that the characters managed to be solid. Then I read The Wings Upon Her Back by Samantha Mills, which follows this was really weird because it was written in a way that I really couldn't get into it. We follow this woman that is like joins this like revolutionary like group, and then partly machine, I think, and then we're trying to fly and do other things. I cannot describe it that well because I couldn't really get into it that well. It was not for me, even though I feel like parts of it was good and atmosphere. Then apparently I did read Mate this month, like in October, not this month as in November, because I thought for some reason it was now in November, even though that does make sense when I think about it. So I could have talked about Mate and Bride together, but Mate is a sequel to Bride, but we follow a different couple. We have two werewolves this time around, and I thought I would love it, but I didn't. I just didn't feel like the relationship was as good as in the first one. I just don't think like the side plot was as interesting. And then suddenly we were having sex, and I was just like, where did this come from? I just feel like the story itself, and to be so thick, I just feel like it didn't manage to do the things that I enjoyed in the first one. So sadly, I was a bit let down from that, but maybe I did audiobook that, so maybe I should have read it physically because that's what I did first for Bride, and I'm enjoying more, but it probably won't happen like right now, but I will be willing to reread later. And the last book I read for a month was Never Ever After by Sulin Tan. This on audio, this for another vlog, and this one, oh god, this one follows this girl that has grown up under her stepaunt that has been treating her really badly. And then she gets this ring that is connected to her life, and it's told that if she does take this ring, she will go out on this journey and find out things about her past. And the journey starts, and she gets involved with a lord, with a prince. She needs to get her ring back, etc. We go on like many like small, I was gonna say like almost like quests, and it felt like very Asian fantasy, which is like what I enjoy, obviously. I don't know how to describe the atmosphere other than that, but then what twist happened, there is all of elements in the story, and I did think it was enjoyable. Did actually like it, and I'm curious to see what will happen in the sequel. Even though I felt like a point it was a lot back and forth, it was still a good story. And that was the 78 books I read in the month. I felt like I talked for a really long time. And my lips are like drying out. Leave a flower emoji, a pink flower emoji down below, because that's on the cover of this book of Never Ever After. You should see me soon in a new one. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.